They're still the Hungarians at that time. They were still the Hungarian things. And again, at that point, it didn't matter to me what we were marching like for 2 days, and at night we just laying on there on the side of the road there in the field. Very little food, even that think soup they didn't give you.
What time of the year was that?
That was, I guess, around August, getting to August, September. So again, I escaped again from that group and went back to Chapel. I was there again for a few weeks. Then they started talking.
How did you escape from such a small group of marchers?
You just, if you march and if they don't keep the eyes on you, and if you see there is a spot someplace where you can sneak away, where they don't spot you right away, that was we learned. You got to find a place where they don't spot you right away, because then they have a little advantage, because they're really not, especially if there are not too many of them, not too many soldiers, they're not going to leave the big group to go and search for one, because they would say he's going to get shot anyway. It makes no difference. He's going to get caught. So
and how scared were you?
Scared beyond means. Scared, it's not the right word even. You come to a point where you don't care. If they're going to shoot you, they're going to shoot you, because you know you're going to die anyway. Or you think you're going to die. You don't know, you hope not. And so you take every possible chance, even though it doesn't make sense, or the chance for succeeding is very little. But you do it anyway.
How many other men tried to escape with you?
I'm sure I wasn't the only one, but at that time where I always did it by myself, because as soon as you go with a group, it becomes harder. And so at that time, later on, but at that time I only did it by myself. So again, I went back to Chapel. Then there was talk that at that time Wallenberg was in he opened his houses in Budapest. And they said, if you can get a certificate that you were a member of the Swedish, they even said the Swiss were supposed to have some too. I don't know how true, but I heard some people that they did. How do you get paper, Wallenberg paper like that? So somehow there were some people with some money, that had some money. And and like I said, the security over there in Chapel wasn't that strict, because of the community they're living in. You could get in there, and then from there you could get easier out. Somehow somebody got into Budapest, and they got a certificate of citizenship for a Swedish house. One. We got together 32, remember exactly. We got the sergeant. How we got him, I don't know. He agreed that we're going to pretend that he is bringing us to someplace. We're going to march, and he's in charge. And he got another soldier who was an older guy. He wasn't a very smart man, that's for sure. And he got him to march in the back. The sergeant was in the front, and the guy was marching in the back, because the reason I say he's not too smart. And the sergeant gave him strict instructions. If anybody goes out of line, don't ask no questions, shoot them right there, And really gave him strict instructions. And that guy with a big thing with a bayonet on top, and when at that time there was a lot of bombing, and the planes came to bomb, he would try and shoot the plane with his old gun. That's why I say he wasn't very smart. But anyway, we got the sergeant to bring us to Budapest, and we marched, and that guy in the back made us sing songs, military songs, and anyway, we came to Budapest, and some of the guys knew the city pretty good. They went to a big house, and the deal was with the sergeant, he's going to bring us to this house, and then he's going to leave us there. And we got to this house with a big yard, like. But now, again, now the sergeant, we come to a halt, he said, halt. And he says to the sergeant, to that soldier, now you stay here, you watch him, I got to go, I got to talk to somebody, whatever. And the guy never came back. And there was this soldier, by that time already, after about an hour, we knew already what was happening, and we just started to get into the yard, little by one, and then finally somebody went over to him and told him, look, the sergeant is not going to come back anymore, you might as well go home. And he was starting to yell with a rifle. So anyway, whatever happened, I guess he must have understood, or something, and he left, and we went into the yard. Now we're in a yard in a big apartment building, a big apartment complex like. Now we can't stay there. How long can you stay there? Some people that might have had connections to go to somebody's house or whatever, or some people who had money. So, and at that time, if you were caught, either they took you right away to the concentration camp or to a death march, or where they shot you, they brought you out to the field. Nobody knew exactly what happened to the people they took him. They took him to the field, the guy didn't want to bother, he just shot him, So that's what they were referring to us the time before when we were marching. He said, don't worry, you're never going to get to the city, you don't have to worry, you're not going to get tired.
Who were these men who were with you?
They were, I don't know any of them. We just got to know them there because we were all there, but as far as personal contact, none.
What religion were they?
At that time, that group was all Jewish.
How did you know they were all Jews?
Well, I mean, I didn't go around asking whether you're Jews, but it was obvious. There could have been somebody else, maybe a couple of common. The only thing I can think of who else would be in trouble would be either a communist or a gypsy, and they were not gypsies. So
where were you in Budapest at this
so
time?
we were in that house there in the thing the night. So now we got to hide out something for the night. Now the next day, what do you do now? I know if I get caught, that's it. That's for sure. Back to chapel.
All of you?
And I went back to chapel. And
how many went back?
No, by myself. At that time, I just went back to chapel.
And what happened
by
to
myself.
the other guys?
So we were in chapel, and at that time already, there was already
How many of the other guys went back with you?
only me from that group.
What happened to the other ones?
I have no idea. I never knew that. I never was in touch. We didn't. So now I'm back in chapel, and I managed to get in there again. But then already, it was already winter time. By that time, it was already winter time. And they were starting to talk. Rumor spread that they're going to take us all to the concentration camp. And I guess from the civilians, they must have gotten some information for some, I don't know, but they filtered it down to us that they're going to take us to concentration camp.
What did you know about what was happening in the war?
Not much. I mean, we knew that Germany is winning. That's all we knew. At that time already, we found out that the Russians are coming and the Americans and the English are winning the war. At that time already, it was reversed already. We knew that the Russians are coming from that side, because where we were, over there, the Russians were coming. So we knew everybody was said the Russians are pretty close, but they were still far away.
Oh.
The bombing was 3 times a day, on the nose. 10 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and 11 o'clock at night. You could set your time on it. 10 in the morning, it was the English. In the afternoon were the American bombers, and at night it was the Russians, and they would light up the whole area like daylight. And you could tell already, after a while you get to know already, by the sound of the things, you could tell whether thing, what planes it is. And what they had there in Chapel, they had big bunkers built for the civilians, but they wouldn't allow us to go in the bunkers. So we would just stand there underneath the roof or something and watch, see what's happening, you know. And, you say you're praying, you say your Shema Yisrael, and if the bomb falls on you or it fell 10 feet away from you and it blew up everything, it's just plain luck. At that time, it wasn't any more smartness or courage or anything like that. It was just plain luck. You had to be just on the right spot. And what do we do? They would bomb, they would concentrate on the bunkers. I guess they can tell from the plane, you know, because the bunkers are big. And we knew already, we learned already that you stay away as far from the bunker as possible because of the bombs. And then what they would have us do, sometimes the bombing would be too heavy and the smoke, and if it would last a long time, they couldn't come out because there was heat fires around the bunkers. The people from the bunkers couldn't come out, and they would run out of oxygen. I guess they had a certain amount of oxygen in the bunker. And if we got caught, if we were not smart enough to hide out someplace, and they saw us, you know, with the police going around there, they would take us, and they would put an oxygen tank on you and to go and bring it into the bunker. Now I don't know how many did it. I know I only got caught twice. All I know is I never got close to the bunker, and as soon as it came, I was in thick smoke and the heat. I just took the tank and threw it down. That's it. And I came back, try to go around the other way so they don't catch you again. Well, anyway, so now I'm back again. Now they started seriously talking about it's going to not take too long, but they're going to take us all to concentration camps. So that's when 3 of us decided we're going to go, we're going to escape together. And what we're going to try and do is go backwards to the front, to the Russian front.
And who were the 2 other people?
There was Herman and another guy named Bumi.
What was his
Now,
last
I don't even know, he wasn't even from Slatina. We just got friendly.
What was his last name?
Simovic. We just got, you know, friendly over there. And it's exactly, we managed, I don't even remember exactly how right now, but we did escape and we started to walk backwards. And we did most of the walking at night. And this Bumi, he was very good. He was like a farmer. So like Herman too, because his father, you know, with a horse and wagon, and they were familiar with animals, and they knew the things of a farm. I didn't know anything about a farm. I didn't know nothing. But they knew, and they knew how just where to go, where to hide out, and because we would go to walk at night, you know, and sometimes crawl. And this is where I say the hard times came in, because we didn't have no food. We had no food, and we had no place where to go. And we somehow we got into a warehouse, and we got 2 cases. We found 2 cases of marmalade. We didn't know what's in the cases, you know. Of course, we grabbed them. We ran, and when we came to a safe spot, you know, we opened it up, and there were marmalade. So that was our diet for 2-3 weeks. Now, can you imagine marmalade, having that, and of course a little bit, but what it did to your stomach? We didn't have any more clothes to change. We didn't have, the only thing what we have is what we had on us. And with the, like I said, it's too gross, and we, whenever we could, stop, hide out, and take our pants off, you know, and rinse them through, or whatever we could get to water, we shouldn't be caught. And we marched back. We marched for, we hid out for about almost 3 months. Now, I cannot explain enough what it is to hide. If you were caught by anybody, you were shot. How we managed for that long a time at night and during the day and to travel and food, whatever. What we would do after, if we would go to the fields, you know, when they cut the cabbage heads, you know, there's on the bottom left a little thing. That was our diet if we found a cabbage field, you know. So finally we got very close to the front. We could hear the shooting, you know, and everything. And we wound up, we were in a field, and we found one of those. It wasn't a hut because it was actually dug into the ground. It was like a little, not a cellar, but something there was what the farmer they kept there, you know, and it had doors to it. And we found, and it was like a little hill, and we took it because there was, like I said, the bottom of the think of the cabbage things, and we saw some sunflowers. Dried, you know, the sunflower was left, and we said, oh, we thought that'll help us to sustain the food. And we hid out there because we could see that we can close the door. So we hid in there, and we were there maybe a couple of weeks. And we just come out at night, open up and see. And that little hill, the front, is just right over there, the front was going back and forth. 4 times the Russians and the Hungarian German armies took it over, they took it over, and took it over. Finally, when we could see already at night that the Russians advanced towards Budapest, they went, so finally we came out. And we felt we were liberated by the Russians. I say we felt because that's what it was, we just felt.
And so why is it that they didn't find you in this little hut with the doors on it?
Because nobody went looking. The farmers couldn't go to the field because there was a war going on. The front was right there. The soldiers were not concerned. When I say a door, I don't mean a big door like that. It was like a little plank, you know. So we could just move it and go out. And because they were just shooting back and forth, nobody was looking.
And
so most of the times it's like it's luck. If somebody would come looking, if any soldier, whether a Russian or a German soldier comes there, I'm sure I couldn't tell you the story.
And how were you surviving as far as the water and any...
That's it. Like I said, the food and the water, we would go and squeeze out whatever the little moisture, and sometimes because there was still, it was like spring, you know, and there was still a little thing left over on the fields, you know. You would lick anything. That's what I said. It's too gross to explain. You anything for just to survive. And we thought that all we have to do is survive. And of course we were hoping that it's not going to last that long. You know, the way they were talking, the Russian at the front, and going real fast, and all of a sudden it slowed down.
And so then what happened after the Russians pushed the...
Okay, so when we
Germans
came
back?
out, and we dared already, you know, we came out and we went during the day this time, and we went towards the village, and there was there was a whole bunch of Russians there, Russian soldiers, and they were resting because there must have been the infantry. They were resting, and they took their shoes off to rest. And the Russian army, I think it's known now, I don't think anybody knew then, they were very, very poorly equipped army. And the clothes were really, really bad. Anyway, so we went there, and we fell down, we kneeled on the ground to kiss their feet. And they didn't even have socks. Well, they had this like a rag, what they would call, they would wrap it around their feet, you know, and no socks. And we laid down, you know, and kiss him to be so happy. And see, the Czech language is the Slovak language, it's a Slavish language, and it's very If you're good at it, it's similar to Russian. We even spoke a little Russian.
And what did you
And,
say
and
to
of
them?
course, the guys, the soldiers on the other side, right away, you know, they could, you know, with the guns, they didn't know what's what. So finally, we came up and we tell them, we are Jews, we are Zhid in Russian. Zhid is Jewish, we are Jews. And like I said,
What was their reaction?
like I said, many times, a lot of things, 90% of it which I forgot, but I never forget the answer. He's, he said, Zhid, yap tvoyu mать, Zhid. Fuck your mother, you Jew bastard. This was the expression. That was the welcome.
And so then what did they do to you?
And they took us with the guns to back to the officers. And we come there, and sure enough, there was the captain was a woman. There was a lot of women things in the Russian army. And we tell them, we tell them we are Jews. Approve it. Can prove it. So she says, she lines us up. Drop your pants. Get undressed. See, I guess in Russia, no Jews were circumcised, you know. And we kind of looked, you know, and there was a whole bunch, you know, drop your pants. So we dropped our pants. Okay, so now they saw we're Jews. So what did they do? They put us to work right away. Behind, they had their infantry, you know, whatever, the machinery and the cook. And so they put us to work to help in the kitchen, clean up the things, you know, whatever there. And as we were doing there, the work in the back there, a Russian officer comes over to us, and he starts talking with us, and he says he's Jewish. He's a Jewish Russian officer. And so right away, you know, we thought we were in seventh heaven, you know, so we asked him if there's anything he can do for us. He says, I can try. He says, but it ain't gonna help you much. My advice to you guys is, to you people, is just try and keep your noses clean, do what you were told, and when you come further back, if you're gonna manage, if they're gonna let you, because they might want you to come with this regiment towards the front again, you know, to push the wagons, because when it was raining, the roads were muddy, and the tank and the wagons, you know, they needed help to push. So he says, try and get back. So we were kind of pressing him to give us more help, is to give us some sort of papers. We don't have any papers. Is to give us some sort of papers. So he agreed, and he gave us a paper. He gave us each a paper, and he gave us each a loaf of bread, and he kind of said, when it's a good time to just take off, he says, you take off and you march backwards, away from the front.
If this officer that you were talking about was a Jewish Russian officer, how was it that the other officer or soldier was cursing at you and they were comrades?
That was the norm in Russia, you know. They hated the Jews almost as bad as I think. Also depending what part of the country you came from. And Russia had so many different things there.
But this Russian officer who was Jewish was in the same unit as the one that was cursing at you?
We do not remember. No. They were just soldiers there. There was no officer. They brought us backwards to the officer. You know, there might have been a sergeant or somebody there, but they brought us back to the captain, you know, who was a little more in charge. So he gave us three things, and he told us about when it's about the best time, you know, and you just march back. So we did that. We took the three breads, the paper, and we marched. We walked back away from the front, back towards home. See, at that time, Slatina was liberated already. So we walked maybe a half an hour, and there is this other regiment marching on the road because they're going to the front. Now they see their three young guys walking on the road. Right away, of course, right away they stopped us. And we felt kind of good because we had a paper. So we give the guy the paper, he looks at it, and again the same thing. Yup, for you, my Jew. Takes the paper, rips into small pieces, takes the bread, and goes, here, go behind the wagon, help push the wagon.
So what happened then?
We pushed for maybe 3 days. The only good thing is because we pushed the wagon, we could get the food. we had enough food. That was a big thing for us then, to eat up enough, to eat whatever it was, whether it was just plain bread or beans, made no difference. And we marched, we pushed for about 3 days, and then the same thing at night, we decided we're going to go back. And we took off, the 3 of us, off again at night. And from then on, as soon as we knew if we can manage to go like to the next village or past the next village, we'll be like away from the front. And sure enough, that's what we managed to do that. And at that time already, we came already in a part of Hungary that was already occupied by the Russians, and the front was moving forward. We began to take a little bit advantage of the situation. We just walked into a home, an Hungarian home. We said, we're Jews. You give us food, you give us lodging. And believe it or not, it worked. But anyway.
Mr. Barry, at what time or at any time during the war that you were running and hiding, did you try to conceal your Jewish identity?
Did I try what?
To conceal your Jewish identity.
I don't think when I was hiding, I don't think I concealed the only time I concealed my Jewish identity was when I was in Budapest and working there for a while, but it didn't last too long. It didn't work. So there was no sense to it.
How did you try to hide it?
I didn't have any papers. I just didn't say I'm Jewish. And whether they believe me or not, I would never try to hide it in front of police or something like that. I'm talking about civilians.
We're going to change tapes now. So, Mr. Barry, then after you were pushing this cart for the Russians, then what happened?
Well, we ran away, and we started to work our way towards home. We knew that already has been liberated.
Home where?
Slatina. It took us quite a while because it was still war going on, even though we were not exactly at the front, but there was still war going on. There were some rough things. And we went by wagon, by train. Trains, a lot of trains didn't work, so we had to go all kind of different ways. And we managed to get to Slatina. We didn't have any money, but like the Hungarians, they kind of, if we walked in and we told them that we are Jews and we were walking our way back home, they gave us food. They were sort of afraid of us, even though we wouldn't do any harm to them. But at the same thing, if we caught a train, we didn't have any tickets. They didn't throw us off the train. We told them we go where we want to go in that direction. So it took us quite a while. I don't know exactly how long, but we wound up home.
And when you
Back
got
to
there,
Slatino.
when you got there, what did you find?
It was the worst possible thing